Learn Persian with Chai Conversation, Lesson 71, A Separation with Yara Elmjouie.
Hello.
Salam, Yara. Thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super pumped to, bring this idea we've had to life.
Yeah, so this was actually Yara's idea, all credit to him. So we're going through the movie A Separation, which is by Asghar Farhadi and one of the excellent movies of Iranian cinema. There's so many, but this one particularly wonderful. And we're going to be going through 5 clips that Yara has chosen. We're going to talk about the clips together and watch them with you. So these podcasts are available in 2 different formats. Either you can watch the video, which I highly recommend, or you can listen to the audio as a kind of refresher. But the video will have transcript of the clips that we're watching. It's going to have the captions so you can really, really learn these lessons. And as always, we're going to have PDF guides for each of these lessons and clips on our website, all the learning resources that you need. But first, let's go back to what made you think of doing this project, Yara?
Totally. So I think one of the things that really inspired me is that one of the best ways to really learn Persian, and I know this as someone who was formerly, and I suppose still is, a Persian learner, learning new things every day, was really to immerse myself in like an environment where people are just speaking colloquially amongst themselves, Iranians around me. But unfortunately, being in Iran and getting to do that is a little difficult. So the next best thing for me was really watching films, movies, news broadcasts even. So, one of the reasons I chose A Separation for us to kind of dissect and learn how people actually speak from is because I think Asghar Farhadi's films have this incredible dialogue. And one of the things I love about his movies is the dialogue is often so realistic. There's overlapping voices. People speak like real Iranians in Iran. Chatter, the colloquialisms, the idioms, it's just very natural. And the actors obviously, really drive that home.
Amazing. Yeah. And I want to begin. So we're going to have 5 different clips and you'll see that kind of overlapping language. These lessons are going to be cumulative. So things that we talk about in the beginning, we're going to see over and over again. The first lesson, it's going to be me and Yara going over the clip, watching it together. So the idea for this is to get the general idea, talk about concepts that we see in the language. But it's going to be kind of like when you go to the eye doctor, when at first everything seems really fuzzy. So right now, when we watch the clip together, maybe you won't be able to understand anything. And like Yara says, there's a lot of overlapping dialogue, a lot of fast-paced dialogue. But as we go along, it'll come clear and clear into focus. And by the end, hopefully you'll watch this clip and be able to understand every word and phrase in that clip, which will be really exciting. But yeah, this is meant for people that have been studying the Persian language. So we're not necessarily going to go over every single word in the beginning. So just keep that in mind. But stay with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And first, I want to start with the title of the movie. In English, it's called A Separation. What's the title in Persian?
جدایی نادر از سیمین. So, right.
Which I love that because that's an example right off the bat of where things do get a little bit lost in translation. A separation refers to the 2 title characters, Nader and Simin, who are married. So can you tell us what it means literally in Persian?
Yeah, the separation of Nader from Simin. So it's a very, very direct, it's a much more descriptive title.
Yes.
Yeah. So who knows
and
what
I
focus
love
group decided
for me,
to
there's a lot of intrigue. Like, oh no, what's going to happen to Nader and Simin? Why are they separating? What's going on? So already the title has so many questions that you don't get from just that English. So without further ado, let's watch the first clip. It's about a minute long. Like we said, a lot of fast paced, a lot of overlapping dialogue, but we're going to go over it then line by line together. So here we go.
سر گاز نره این در باز نمونه بره بیرون گم شه در پنجره نره ترم بابا این مانتو و مقنعه مدرسات بعدی به من مثل تو باشه من فقط سر 7:30 باید از خونه برم بیرون شما باید یه جوری بیاین که من بسپارمش به شما برم سر کار
7:30 دیگه خیلی زوده من اگه بخوام اینطوری بیام دیگه فکر کنم بعد 5:50 از خونه بیام
بیاین بالا
8 نمیدونم تا 8 نمیدونم
شما تا 8 خودتون رو برسونینم خوبه زنگ این بالاییه ما رو بزنین در پایین براتون باز میکنه من کلید اینجا رم براتون میذارم اینجا خوبه
باش
قایتون میرسه
ببخشید ماهی چقدره
تشریف داشته باشین ماهی 300 خانم
من که خیلی کمه.
دیگه همین حدوداست خانم بپرسیم.
خانم مسیرم هم دوره. چند تا خط اتوبوس عوض میکنم تا برسم.
این چیزیست که من در توانمه. حالا دیگه خودتون میدونی که اگر فکر میکنین که میتونیم من خدمتتون هستم.
کتابا رو همش بدین شاید به دردش بخوره. بفرمایید.
پول خورد ندارم.
بعد از اون به من خبرش بدین که من با یکی دیگه هم صحبت کردم حداقل اگه شما نتونستین اون از دست ندم.
Okay. So there's a lot going on here. I do want to say too that we're just showing clips from this movie. There will be by the end a little bit of a spoiling happening. So we highly recommend that if you haven't seen the movie right now, you can start with this lesson, but go throughout these next few weeks and watch it. It's super enjoyable, super fun to watch, even though it's a kind of heavy subject line at times. But you can get it on Amazon Prime or you can purchase it off of YouTube. So just a quick note. So now let's watch just a little bit of the beginning.
سر گاز نره این در باز نمونه بره بیرون گم شه در پنجره نره ترم بابا این مانتو و مقنعه مدرسات بعدی به من مثل تو باشه.
Okay. Yep. Wow. Okay. A lot. And the end of it is quite quick. So pretty clear, I think just one thing I want to point out here is there is sort of a context. This woman is being brought in. The woman in the chador is being brought in as a caretaker. He's trying to hire a caretaker to take care of his father, who is suffering from some ailment. And so he's giving her directions, right? So he is saying now, that's the context. Sare gaz nare, and then in dar baz namune bere birun gom she dam panjare nare. So he's saying, we use the words sar and dam to indicate near or close to places. So he's saying, near the stove, he shouldn't go as a command. And then he's saying, this door should not remain open because then he might go out and get lost. Gomshe. And then lastly, he says, dame panjere. Dam again being close to or near something. You say, dame panjere, dame dar, dame felan, someplace. Near the window, he shouldn't go either. So that's just kind of the first sort of, he's giving very clear directions about near, the father should not be allowed to go near certain things.
And then we included this terme baba.
Exactly. And so that's another interesting part that I highlighted terme baba because I thought that was really interesting. It's something that we Iranians do, but I've also seen it, in the Arab world, and I'm sure many other places around the world. He is referring to his daughter terme, but he's calling her baba. He's calling her what she would call him, dad. Baba is dad. So sometimes he could even have said baba if he was just referring to his daughter. He would have said baba bia inja. Even though she's not the dad, right? He's the dad, but he's using, again, that term to describe, to call to his daughter.
Right. And this is reciprocal. So, for example, I am a mother, maman, and so my kids call me maman, and I call them maman. So it's whatever they call you, you call them. So if you're uncle, dai, you call your nephews and nieces dai. So it's just a reciprocal calling.
And then pretty clear, terme baba in manto magne madresato bardar biar. So here, this is one of many examples we're going to see throughout these clips, but this double verb situation, right? He's saying, grab your manto, bardar biar. So grab and bring, right? I guess an expanded form ideally would be bardar va biar. Grab it and bring it. But in Persian, colloquially, we often will just snap two verbs right next to each other and say, bardar biar. Beshin bebinam, like all these sorts of things, two verbs just quickly in close contact. Bardar biar, grab your, manto and maknae. And man bendazam to bepushi. He says that very quickly, but he's basically saying, I'm going to throw it in the wash so you can wear it later. Throw it in the laundry machine. And the translation for this in the actual English language subtitle script is just like, what is it? It's something along the lines of do your terme, get your laundry. So very, very shortened.
Right. Right.
And
okay. Let's listen to the next part.
من فقط سر 7:30 باید از خونه برم بیرون. شما باید یه جوری بیاین که من بسپارمش به شما برم سر کار.
I'll just start here. Like من فقط سر 7:30 باید از خونه برم بیرون. So Layla, pretty clear, right? It's سر 7.
Right, sare. So we had sare gaz in the beginning, which was next to the gas. Sare haft is also the same concept, but it's saying at 7 o'clock. So at the head of 7, is
right,
how you'd
exactly.
say at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and it's just kind of something to think here is, right, like as a Persian learner, right, you're probably thinking dar. The word dar means at. But here, once again, we're using the word sare gaz. You don't say dar gaz naro, right? At the stove, don't go there. we say saragos. And same thing with time. You know, we don't say, in spoken Persian, you know, we don't say man dar haftonim. We'll say man sar haftonim ba'ad az khune beram. At the peak of 7:30, I must leave the home. And we use sat again. It's very weird to say man dar haftonim again. But if you're writing Persian, perhaps you say ishon dar haftonim. You know, it might make sense formally there. But spoken sar haftonim is very, very colloquial and common. And then he ends the sentence with شما باید یه جوری بیاین که من بسپرمش به شما برم سر کار.
Right.
So, بسپرم.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That means something along the lines of, how would you translate that?
I would say like entrusting. I'm going to, so I can just entrust my father to you and go to work. There come at a time so I can entrust my father to you, pass him on to you, you know, and then just go to work myself.
And one of the themes that we're going to be talking a lot about is, you know, there's a formal way of speaking and there's an informal way of speaking. So he is using the formal you to refer to the woman. You know, Iran has a kind of more formal culture. So if you don't know someone, you definitely want to use that formal conjugation when speaking to someone. So even though she's of a lower class and he's a man and she's a woman, he's speaking to her in formal you.
Exactly.
One other thing that I want to point out, though, is that when he's referring to his father, usually you would refer to your father as formal, for sure. But because his father is sick, he has dementia, he's kind of in a childlike state, I think that that's why he's referring to his father as informal.
That's a great point. I was just literally, like, we literally are on the same wavelength. I was just thinking, like, he refers to his father. Again, if he wanted to refer formally to his father, let's say this was not his father. This was the father of a third individual here, right? And he does not know the father. He would have said, شما باید یه جوری بیاین که من بسپرمشون به شما, rather than بسپرمش. Because if you say shun is now formal. It's a formal, so it's someone else's father. You don't know them. You have to be extra polite. But he's just saying, it's my father. We have, you know, this sort of informality, supposedly, whether it's because of the father's condition or whatever reason, and he lets it slip, or maybe it could be it's the father. He's like taking care of the father now, and they're not fully conscious.
I think it's for sure because of the condition. Because if he had been, you know, he wouldn't refer to this woman with an older man like as informal.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point.
Right.
Yeah. So great. Okay.
Okay. The next part.
7:30 دیگه خیلی زوده. من اگه بخوام اینطوری بیام دیگه فکر کنم بعد 5:50 از خونه بیام.
بیاین بالا.
Okay, let's stop it there. So now this is where kind of like interlocking dialogues are going to happen. So there's two different things going on here. Go ahead.
So haftonim dige خیلی زوده. So here's the first time we're really starting to see a couple things here. Dige. Dige is a term that, you know, we've kind of discussed this before, Layla and I, but it's kind of an added word that you can interject in the middle of a sentence, at the beginning of a sentence, at the end of a sentence, sometimes for sass, as I like to think, other times just to kind of say then, you know, like then, or sometimes it literally just translates into a sound in English, like,
Right.
As we discussed.
Right.
So 7:30 is very early. You know, added emphasis there. It's kind of early, you know.
Right.
And then من اگر بخوام اینطوری بیام دیگه فکر کنم باید 5:05 از خونه بیام بیرون. دیگه.
Okay, so digar is the written version, but dige is how we say it.
So من اگه, and then same thing with agar and اگه. So من اگه بخوام اینطوری بیام دیگه فکر کنم باید 5:05 از خونه بیام بیرون. So again, here, there's two diges in this, and you can just see that we just distribute this word liberally as Persian speakers throughout our sentences for, again, like I said, so many different reasons.
Right. Well, it's a way of kind of, it's kind of like the concept of taruf. She doesn't want to just come out and say something. They're trying to negotiate some terms here. So she's trying to be soft about it. She's trying to dance around the subject. Haftonim dige kheli zude. She could have said haftonim zude. That's getting to the point.
Yeah, very
but
direct.
She's just dige, you know, there's not a direct translation, and trying to translate it in this sentence particularly makes my brain hurt a little. Dige, Anyway,
yeah,
it's really anyway.
Then kind of, just, yeah, it's kind of like dilly-dallying in the middle of a sentence. Another thing I wanted to point out, actually, I didn't initially mark this, but I marked it now. She says, بیام دیگه فکر کنم باید. Instead of saying باید, she says bad. If you kind of listen very closely, من باید برم. If you like listen to someone said من باید, it's not باید. It becomes, let me just think of how I would say, آره من باید برم, bad. It almost turns into باید, but then even more contracted, just becomes bad.
Yeah.
من باید برم اونجا. And she does that here. So that's definitely a colloquialism. When you want to say باید, you're speaking quickly. You might even just get away with saying bad. من باید برم. It's really bad. Ooh, it's tough. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then he says, تا 8 میتونین بیاین. Again, he's using that formal, but the not written version of the formal.
Yes, he doesn't say.
Instead of میتونید.
And that's kind of, who knows if we could read into that, but it's still formal, like you said. It's a little looser. It's just a slightly more spoken, looser version. He could have, if he wanted to be super formal, he could have said میتونید بیایید. But that's that. So we'll let it play out.
8 نمیدونم تا 8 نمیدونم.
شما تا 8 خودتون رو برسونینم خوبه.
So تا 8 نمیدونم.
Exactly.
تا 8 نمیدونم. I don't know if I can till 8.
So that's pretty clear. And then he says شما تا 8 خودتون رو برسونید هم خوبه. So pretty self-explanatory there. If you can reach out, basically make it here by 8, that's good. He's kind of almost imposing this circumstance. She's like, I don't know. He's like, look, if you come by 8, that actually, no, sorry, not even if. You come by 8, that's good. And then the next line here is what we're going to get into.
زنگ این بالاییه ما رو بزنید. در پایین رو براتون باز میکنیم. من کلید اینجا رو براتون میذارم اینجا. خوبه؟
باش.
قایتون میرسه.
So this part I've highlighted because I think it's interesting. زنگ این بالایی ما رو بزنید. So here it's just really the interjection of in, right? If you're kind of wondering, if someone's reading this and learning as a Persian learner, right, they probably might be wondering, why is in? Why is, this in the middle of this phrase? It should just be زنگ بالایی ما رو بزنید, or just زنگ بالایی رو بزنید. Tap the top buzzer bell, whatever, to basically on the intercom machine to ring my apartment. But here it's just kind of a symbolic of how he's talking, he's pointing to a thing, so he's doing زنگ in بالایی, up here, بالایی, and then he adds a ma, possessive, زنگ این بالایی ما را بزنید. Just kind of, as you're kind of talking, you're in between words and you're kind of pointing something out to someone, you can throw an in as well as yourself. So it's just kind of a little bit of that. And then he goes on, در پایین رو براتون باز میکنه. It'll open the door at the bottom for you by tapping this buzzer, this bell. من کلید اینجا رم. Oh, this is very important. من کلید, he says, من کلید اینجا رم براتون میذارم. میذارم اینجا. So, خوبه. Anyways. So, what happens here is he's really saying, من کلید اینجا را هم. Right? Also. But he contracts it. This is so common. If you want to learn how to speak Persian colloquially like an Iranian, this is a super, super common thing that we do, is we will contract ra and ham together, and it will become ram. It will always become ram. There is no variation on this. And so that's just kind of something. کلید اینجا رم بیار. لیوان یا مثلا نمیدونم.
And one part that he said قدتون میرسه is your height gonna reach it. قدتون میرسه.
The key, yeah.
Yeah.
And then ببخشید. Oh yeah, then sorry, she goes on.
ببخشید ماهی چقدره؟
تشریف داشته باشین الان. ماهی 300 خان.
Very good. We have another good one coming up.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of take the first line?
Sure. So he said ببخشید. She says ببخشید ماهی چقدره? Excuse me, how much is it per month? And then he says تشریف داشته باشید الان. So he's talking to the guy coming up the stairs. He says تشریف داشته باشید. And that's a great phrase to know. So what does that mean?
Yes, exactly. So tashrif is such an interesting word. It comes from, my understanding, the Arabic sharaf, which is kind of like honor, loyalty, something like honor. I guess maybe that might be a way. Yeah, be sharaf becomes dishonorable. So yeah, sharaf is honor. So here it's like we use this word tashrif to kind of in very formal situations, when you want to be very formal and very polite, we use this phrase. He could have just said, if it was just his buddy, he would have just said like, inja, inja bashid, ya yelas inja, inja vaysta, wait here, stand here for a second. But what he ends up saying is tashrif dashte bashid, like royally wait here, sit tight, hold on, right? And we use tashrif for these to be extra formal and extra polite. So that's what he's doing here. Tashrif dashte bashid means sit tight, but extremely kind. Like, please grace us with your honorableness here for a second.
Right. And he says, Mahi sisad khanum. Okay, so sisad, so each month 300, ma'am. So sisad is referring to 300,000 tomans, which, with the rate of inflation at this point is nothing, but we think when this movie came out was maybe like $250 a month or something like that.
Something like that, 250 to 300. Yeah, I'd say, because thinking back to when this came out, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, something like that. So when the exchange rate was like 1,000 toman to $1 or 1,400 toman to $1.
Right.
My gosh. And now today we're at 50,000 toman to $1.
Oh
so you can just imagine that the 300,000 toman is now $6.
Wow.
But back then it was more. So.
Okay.
And just one thing to mention. The tashrif dashte bashid is an interjection. He's not referring to this woman anymore. He's now talking to someone who's in the stairwell that his wife is speaking to. He's like, hold on for a second, sit tight, wait for a moment. I'm going to address this woman that I'm interacting with. I'll get back to you.
Right. So at this point, we're going to have two commingling dialogues, by the way.
خیلی کمه. دیگه همین حدوداست خانم بپرسیم.
حالا مسیرم هم دوره. چند تا خط اتوبوس عوض می‌کنم تا برسم.
این چیزیه که من در توانمه.
Ooh, all right. So I guess we can start here with nadige hamun hududas beporsin. So she says, first off, she says kheli kame, it's very little. And then he says nadige hamun hududas beporsin. And then he says no. And then here we see dige once again. It's kind of a little bit of dilly-dallying.
Not really. Not anymore. Not then.
Yeah, not really. And she's like, it's too little. He's like, not really. Hamun hududas. And hudud is kind of like a word for vicinity, but in common speak, you can, he's saying, no, it's around that area. Like 300,000, that's the price. It's around that area. That's normal. Go ahead and ask. Beporsin, go ask around, So, And then, of course.
And then she says, Hala masiram ham dure. Again, we're talking, they're negotiating. She doesn't want to get right to the point. She's throwing in words to elongate this negotiation. Now, my way is very far. Masiram hamdune. My commute is very far. Chand ta khat otobus avaz mikonam ta beresam. I have to change several lines of the bus to get here.
Right, exactly. And great point with hala. Hala is another word we throw in there. Now, well, again, like you were saying, though, this I guess, is dalliance the word? Dilly-dallying? I don't know, maybe that dalliance. But again, elongating, really just dike, hala, ke, like all of this is coming out as a way to be kind of coy and maybe about her dissatisfaction with the low price that he's suggesting.
Right. And he says, ببینید این چیزیست که من در توانمه. Yeah, let's go over that.
That's a fun one, and I highlighted this as well. This great phrase, highly recommend anyone who's listening to this podcast to use. It's like, it's polite, it's good. It means this is the thing that is within my ability. In chizis, this is the thing, ke man dar tavanam. You don't even need man. You can just say ke dar tavaname. That is dar tavan, mi tavanam, mi tavani, mi tuna, mi tuni. It's to be able to. So he's saying this is the thing that is within dar tavaname, that within my ability. Super nice way of just saying, this is what I can do. This is what I can do for you.
And he starts it off by bebinid. Look. Look. Okay.
And then, yes, next line.
حالا دیگه خودتون میدونید که. So again, he's like elongating.
He's doing it as well.
And hala and diga are two filler words.
Yeah. Just again, perfectly. He's doing it as well. She's doing it. She's like hala, and then he's like hala diga, hala.
Now then, you know yourself. hala خودتون میدونید.
Yeah.
You know. Like, look at it and you figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back a little bit and listen to this again.
چند تا خط اتوبوس عوض میکنم تا برسم.
این چیزیست که من در توانمه. حالا دیگه خودتون میدونین که اگر فکر میکنین که میتونین من خدمتتون هستم.
Okay, and I don't even know how he scripted this. This is such a اگر فکر میکنید که میتونین من در خدمتتون هستم. So
exactly.
if you think that you can, I am at your service.
Exactly. And kind of, again, another sort of example of being extra polite. تشریف بیارید, تشریف داشته باشید means wait here. Here, من در خدمتم. He's basically, look, he's forcing this price on her. He's saying, 300,000, this is what's within my ability. And now look at this Persian way of negotiating. If you can accept it, if you like this price, I am at your service. Even though she is at his service, she's performing the task of caretaker for his father. He's saying, now, if you can do this low price, I'm lowballing you. I am at your service, man.
Right.
And it's just so man dar khidmatetun hastam. It's classic. Also, again, you want to negotiate in the Iranian bazaar or even go down to Tehrangelis or, Tehranto. Great phrase to learn.
Absolutely. And then now we go back to the wife and see what she is. So she just went and got some money, as we saw from her purse. And now she's at the stairwell talking to the guy who tashrif overd it now. Now he's up there. She says کتاب‌ها را بهش بدین شاید به دردش بخوره. شاید به دردش خورد. So give them these books. Maybe it'll alleviate some pain of theirs. Like maybe it'll be useful. It literally به دردش خورد means it's useful to them. But literally it means it alleviates some of their pain.
And again, I love that. The very visually descriptive sort of phrases that we see in Persian. We'll see so many. That's one of the things in Persian is that you've talked about this before. It's such a visual language. And it's not just, this is not some fancy idiom like, oh, you like you have in English, like, oh, he jumped the gun and, whatever. It's not an idiom. This is literally like a way to say, in bedard mikhore, is this useful? It's just for usefulness, but yet it's such a descriptive visual phrase.
Exactly.
And it's common. Yeah. So.
Very much so. And then he says, pul khurd nadaram khanum. So I don't have change. Pul khurd means pieces of money, which means change. Okay? And then in the background, we're also hearing the conversation continue with the negotiation.
بعد از اون به من خبرش بدین که من با یکی دیگه هم صحبت کردم حداقل اگه شما نتونستین اون از دست ندم.
Okay.
Very fast, yeah.
Yeah, very, very fast. So بعد از ظهر به من خبرشو بده. So in the afternoon, give me the news of it. به من خبرشو بده. Tell me the news of it. چون من با یکی دیگه صحبت کردم. So here دیگه literally means another. So because من با یکی دیگه صحبت کردم. I've talked to someone else. حداقل اگه شما نتونستید بیاید اونو از دست ندم.
Yeah, exactly.
So at least if you can't come, حداقل means at least. اگه شما نتونستید بیاید, if you couldn't come, اونو از دست ندم. I won't lose them. And as that's, let's talk about that last phrase.
Yeah, exactly. So very clearly, he's like, tell me by, afternoon, because I have these other prospects. I've spoken to Boyeki Dige Sohbat Kardam. He's trying to hire someone to be a caretaker. And then at least, like you said, he basically wants to say, give me an answer because I have to respond to some other people. And I don't want to lose those people. I don't want to lose that person. Uno az dast nadam. Another very visual phrase, just like the previous one, bedard bukhorad, bedardish khord. I don't want to lose it from my az dast nadam. Again, very visual, but extremely common. This is not some sort of unique idiom that you throw out there to be fancy. Super common. Az dast dodan, az dast bedam, az dast midi, az dast mide. Losing something. I don't want to lose. I don't want to drop it from my hand.
Right. Wonderful. So again, we're going to watch the clip one more time together. Let's watch the whole thing.
سر گاز نره این در باز نمونه بره بیرون گم شه در پنجره نره ترم بابا این مانتو و مقنعه مدرسات بعدی به من مثلا تو باشه من فقط سر 7:30 باید از خونه برم بیرون شما باید یه جوری بیاین که من بسپارمش به شما برم سر کار
7:30 دیگه خیلی زوده من اگه بخوام اینطوری بیام دیگه فکر کنم بعد 5:50 از خونه بیام
بیاین بالا
8 نمیدونم تا 8 نمیدونم
شما تا 8 خودتون رو برسونینم خوبه زنگ این بالاییه ما رو بزنی در پایین رو براتون باز میکنیم. من کلید اینجا رو براتون میذارم اینجا. خوبه؟
باش.
قایتون میرسه.
ببخشید ماهی چقدره؟
تشریف داشته باشین. ماهی 300 خانم.
من خیلی کمه.
دیگه همین حدودات خانم بپرسیم.
خانم مسیرم هم دوره. چند تا خط اتوبوس عوض میکنم تا برسم.
این چیزیست که من در توانمه. حالا دیگه خودتون میدونین که اگر فکر میکنین که میتونین من خدمتتون هستم.
این کتابا رو همش بدین شاید به دردش بخوره.
پول خورد ندارم خانم.
بعد از اون به من خبرش بدین که من با یکی دیگه هم صحبت کردم، حداقل اگه شما نتونستین برین اون از دست ندم.
All right. So again, a lot to learn here, a lot of words and phrases, but hopefully you could understand a little bit more this time. So as we go through the subsequent lessons, we're going to go through them word by word, phrase by phrase, so that you can really get the language down. And then you're going to listen to this and understand the entire thing and feel very, very empowered. But we're going to be back with Yara for 4 more clips after this. And so, like we said, go ahead and listen to these lessons, go watch this movie, and we'll be back with Yara next time. Any imparting thoughts as we start this journey of separation?
Yeah, just kind of wanted to review some of the key things that have popped up in this lesson for people to keep in mind as they're trying to improve their speaking skills. One thing that we saw here is this double verb situation, bardar biar, lotf konid, or sorry, we haven't had that yet, bardar biar. That's kind of a thing that's going to repeat throughout the coming lessons. Another thing is little interjections like dige and hala. These sorts of things are strewn throughout to kind of dilly-dally as you're speaking, to add a little bit of sass, to add emphasis. And then kind of the other thing that we're really going to see come back, one of my absolute favorites is, I feel like I'm introducing characters in like a, like a show, is the ra ham, which is kind of truncated to ram, inja ram, uno, livonaram. And we'll see that come up. And really just the formality of it all. Like, look at these, this is when you don't know someone, as Layla was mentioning, right? You were mentioning, you use hyper formal language for people you don't know in Persian. We're seeing this happen with both parties. But what we're going to see later on is how sometimes, as a reflection of the class status or the class difference between people, one party may sort of not fully always use the most formal language, whereas the other party may continue to do so. So we'll see that kind of pop up. Lots of class discussions to be had, but this was super fun.
And this is a movie where a lot of different themes come up, a lot of different issues. One is the class issues. Another is the difficulties of living in Iran. We're dealing with the Simin wants to leave Iran, and why is that? So we'll get to see that, and the life of people living in Iran, the difficulties that they have. We'll see that come up a lot. So this is a very political movie, very ijtimai. How do you say ijtimai?
Social, society.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of societal issues. So we'll see all of that continue forward, and I'm really excited to go on this journey with you. So thank you, Yara.
Yeah,
and
likewise.
until next time.
Thank you.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.